Hello, everyone, and welcome to Essentials to Heal Yourself. I'm Laura Lee Humphreys, and today I've got a really exciting and big conversation for you, and I hope you enjoy it. It's actually one of my favorite things to talk about. So I've mentioned in some of my other videos that the core issue about all of healing has to do with power, your power and how you're using it. I've also mentioned that the core issue of healing is ultimately a spiritual issue in that it requires that you expand your perception of yourself to encompass and embrace and understand and cultivate a connection with your spiritual essence, your spiritual higher self, okay? Your connection to the divine creator, okay? It's about seeing yourself as a biospiritual energetic being, okay? So that leads into our topic today, which is about dimensions, reality systems, and densities. It's a big conversation, so I hope you enjoy it, so stick with me. So when we look at all of the chaos, all of the destruction, all the craziness, all the madness, all of the poor health, the suffering that we're experiencing today, then what I'm going to be sharing with you will hopefully give you a much broader perspective to see it from a more of a bird's eye view, to understand why is this going on and what is your place into all of this madness? What is the purpose and point of life? And how can you get through it in a way that you can come out the other side of this current phase in a much better place within yourself, having developed and grown and evolved? Because that's ultimately what life is about, is for you to grow and develop your consciousness, your beingness, okay? Self-development, if you want to call it that. Okay, so we're going to talk about reality systems and dimensions and densities. So dimensions refer more to the placement of your being. Where are you? Okay. So first dimension is like a flat plane, left and right. Second dimension, you're adding in depth. Okay. So you've got this flat plane. This is second dimension, two dimensions. Third dimension, you're adding height, depth, and width. Okay. So now you can expand to do more because you've got the added dimension of the height, okay? Fourth dimension is time. So now that you've got these three planes of physical material to work within, now you can learn how to move your beingness, move your person at various points along these three planes, and even jump from one to the other. You follow that? It's about learning to understand and then master the dynamics of time, which is the flow of a type of energy. Okay? Fourth dimension is time. Now let's talk about densities. Densities have more to do with the development of your beingness or the development of your consciousness. Okay? So we have first density, second density, third density, fourth density, fifth density. And in each of these levels of development of beings, of entities, then we construct reality systems. So we're obviously in the third dimension, and the current reality system that we are living within is a construct that is agreed upon by the whole. You may not have consciously agreed upon it, but by the very fact that you are here living within it, on some level of your being or your soul, you have agreed to be here, to agree to be within this reality system for various reasons. I've also mentioned in other videos that we are living in the turning of the ages, where we're moving from one age of living and seeing life into another. And that process takes many years, and it is filled with much change and chaos and destruction and suffering and opportunity and growth and goodness, all kinds of things. And so what we are experiencing right now with all of the chaos, all of the madness, all the people going crazy and acting all weird and dysfunctional and on and on and on, That is the turning of the ages, the crumbling and breaking down and the dying away of the reality system within which we have been living our entire lives. That's why it's such a big deal. And in its place, as that is dying away, what is being birthed and born and created is another reality system, which, as we go through the next several months, then the signs of that will become more and more and more obvious if you know what to look for and if you're willing to look for it. So then the choice becomes, where do you want to be? Do you want to anchor yourself in your consciousness and your energy and everything into the crumbling and dying away of the reality system? Are you going to cling to that out of fear and fear of security and thinking that you're not safe? Or are you going to recognize the dynamic of all of this and say, okay, I want to evolve and grow. I want to experience something greater and more. So I'm going to move my energy over here into the creation of what is developing and coming down the line, because believe me, it is. You just have to start looking for it. So that is the big choice point that we are at in this point of human evolution right now. Okay, so getting back to densities, the Earth contains first density, second density, third density, fourth density, and even more. So I mentioned that densities refer to the development of consciousness. So on first density, we're talking about rocks and minerals and just the core, the basic of the Earth herself. And what humans have done in the last several hundred years is decide that all of these rocks and minerals and crystals in the Earth herself is inanimate. It doesn't matter. We can have dominion over the Earth and do whatever we want to and screw the consequences. And, it's just all for, me, what I want right now, and greed. Having stepped out of the conversation of life means that we no longer are connected to or honor the level of consciousness that is already innately inherent within the Earth herself. Meaning, all things contain consciousness. All things contain life force, which is energy, which is light, which is intelligence, which is consciousness. They're all the same thing. Just because that type of consciousness does not express in the same way that humankind consciousness expresses, does not mean that it's any less valid and does not mean that it does not exist. That is a grave error that humans have made, and it's starting to slap us in our faces to our great detriment. Because as we having separated ourselves from nature and denying that nature has any degree of consciousness, then we are setting ourselves up to perish and destroy ourselves. Okay, so that's another rant. First density, rocks and minerals and crystals, core, the basic part of the Earth. There's consciousness within that. You know how to tap into it? If you develop your intuition, you're developing your consciousness, you can tap into that level of consciousness of rocks and minerals and perceive and tap into the level of information that is stored there. In all of technology, there's quartz crystals. Why do you think they use them? Because they are receptors and they send and receive information. They hold information. That is a level of consciousness. Second density is the consciousness of mammals, of birds, of plants, animals, fish, fowl, all the birds that fly. I mentioned that already. Within the second density, the mammalian mind, you find the group think, the group mind. In schools of fish, of flocks of birds, of packs of animals, of dogs, they group together to survive. And on a spiritual, energetic soul level, it's a group mind. They all think and flow and together as one. Okay. The development of a second density being is something that we can see most readily in our pets, our cats and our dogs. especially with dogs, or that's a very clear example. So anyone who has a dog or has worked with dogs, you know they have their own level of personality, their own little entity, their own little beingness. That is a development of consciousness at the second density level. Their process of growth and development in interacting with you as their pet is the beginning of their personality, of developing a sense of personality, to say, I need this, I want this, I'm hungry, I need to be taken out to go, relieve myself, I'm thirsty, I need to go for a walk. It's allowing that animal to develop that sense of this is what I need and want as an individual entity, to begin a process of developing its own personhood or personality, if you want to call it that, within the group mind of the tribe, of the pack, of the flock. You follow that? That second density consciousness. Now, when we come to third density consciousness, which is where we're at as humans, there is still a very large, strong carryover of the tribal or group mind from second density level of consciousness that is inherent within the physical body. So as third density beings, you've got your physical body, which has its own level of consciousness. I'll say that again. Your body in and of itself is an elemental being that possesses inherently second dimension, second density consciousness. What makes you different, or what makes humanity different from the rest of the animals, is that our physical form, our body has developed to the point where it has a larger cranial part of the brain to be able to think and process differently, to hold a higher level of consciousness, which means to say, to hold a spiritual soul, to hold a soul. That's why what I say, it's like you are a spiritual entity incarnate in a physical body. Every religion and a lot of traditions already teach this. So it's not, I'm not saying anything new here. I'm just breaking it down in a way that maybe you can understand from a different perspective. So within humanity, we are very strongly influenced by the tribal mind, the group mind. And that goes to our benefit and to our detriment. The human mind is very, very programmable. I talk a lot about our social conditioning, how we've been programmed, how we reinforce these programs each other through our interactions with other people. We police each other to keep our tribe, our family in line, according to tribal or family law of this is how we do things in our family. This is how we do things in this religion. This is what the religion believes. Therefore, this is how we live. This is how we eat. This is how we see each other. This is how we treat each other. A lot of that is good. And we need and require that foundation in order to properly develop. The problem comes when that aspect or quality of programming an individual becomes hijacked and taken advantage of and twisted and turned into a detrimental direction. And a lot of what we see going on in society today is exactly that. Trauma-based mind control by forces within our reality running and who have set up the institutions like government, religion, finances, economics, education, et cetera, et cetera. The people who are running the world, the 13 family bloodlines who've been in charge or running the world for a long time, generations, are very skilled and educated in human psychology. They are experts at it. They've been practicing manipulating human psychology for hundreds of years. And so what we see today, especially in the last 3 years, the COVID era, is a masterful, well thought out, well-oiled machine rolling out mind control, fear-based mind control, to program people to stay in a certain realm of perception, a certain realm of emotional energies, which is based on basically fear, stress, and anxiety, so that they will then do particular actions and live in a certain way that is to the benefit of the pack of psychopaths who've been running this planet for generations and hundreds of years. We've become hijacked in that way. And therefore, humanity as a race not only suffers from amnesia because we don't know who we are, we don't understand our true history, it's been hidden from us and twisted and distorted and turned. We also are a traumatized race. We have been abused and manipulated and hurt and taught to beat up on each other and kill and destroy and maim each other for generations of time. And all of that trauma, if it's not resolved and eventually gets worked through from each successive generation, all of that trauma gets stored within the DNA, stored within the tissues of the body, and it gets passed down to future generations, as well as the lifestyle way of living and thinking and doing and believing and feeling. The environment also gets imprinted into the successive generations of children, and then they just continue and perpetuate the trauma, the dysfunction, the abuse over and over and over again, until there is an entity or a soul who decides to incarnate into specific family lines, recognizing that dysfunction that has been stuck there for generations, that all of their ancestors have been stuck within, and they come in to choose to change that pattern. That's what we're experiencing more and more and more in people today. And the sad part is, oftentimes, those souls who come into those family lines to heal the dysfunction are seen and treated as the black sheep of the family, because the rest of the family does not understand what's going on. And oftentimes the black sheep person doesn't really understand what it is that they're doing, the role that they've chosen to play in that family either. So all of this being said, with all of this conditioning, social programming, trauma-based mind control, sexual abuse, satanic ritual abuse, all of this leaves us in the main, or leaves humanity in the main, at a childlike level of consciousness, never able to develop and grow the way we're supposed to, the way that we are inherently wired to develop, the way our potential as human beings is for what's possible for us to develop. We're too stuck in the trauma, in the fear, and the pain, and the angst, in the generations of unresolved dysfunction and trauma. And that's one of the factors that contributes to why so many people are sick today. One of the things that influences people to make such poor choices of what they put into their body and into their mouth, and the crap and poisons that they allow themselves to have injected into their arms, which is poisonous, toxic things that damage the body and that damages the DNA. And if you've seen anything for the last 2 years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We are stuck at this very low level, second density level of consciousness by the nature of the reality system that we are living within, and because of the manipulations of the pack of psychopaths running this planet, who know and have studied human psychology for thousands of years. That is one of the reasons why the reality system that we are living in right now is breaking down and falling apart. it cannot sustain itself any longer without blowing up and the entire planet and destroying humanity. So if you want to evolve and grow and still have a planet to live on, it behooves you to take what I'm saying seriously and really take it into yourself and choose to do something to move towards evolving and healing and growing and developing yourself. And we start with taking care of your body. A lot of the things that I'm talking about, of why you're sick, how do you heal yourself? I'm talking about the big picture of how you heal yourself and why. In order for humanity, any human, to evolve past the point of third density consciousness, to move out of this cesspool of manipulation, of mind control, of trauma-based abuse and fear and anxiety, and having your development hijacked, having your life force energy, your spirit, your consciousness hijacked. The big developmental question or thing for third density entities, people to develop, is individuation and a sense of choice that comes after a process of individuation has occurred. What does that all mean? So within the tribal mind, within the social construct of this is what you do so that you don't rock the boat of other people, so that they're not upset with you. You see it especially in family dynamics. There's spoken and unspoken ways of how family dynamics in relationships interact with each other. And that is the established norm. So for example, you've got a codependent relationship or an alcoholic abusive family environment. There's a lot of this walking on eggshells and saying and doing everything in a certain way so that you don't piss off and annoy the person who is the alcoholic or the drug addict or whoever the central person is, because you don't want them to erupt. And then you've got World War III in your house. Okay. You walk on eggshells, you do certain things, you believe certain things about yourself and about this other person and your interaction with them. Those are all family laws, tribal familial laws of how you do things. You can also see it in food choices. This is how we eat. This is what we always do on Sunday dinner. Or this is how we always eat and what we always do on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then somebody comes along and says, nah, I don't really like that way of eating anymore. I don't want to have all that meat, for example. I want to be vegetarian or even vegan. And the rest of your family looks at you like you've just grown 3 heads. And they're like, what's wrong with you? How dare you? This is what we always do. You can't go against the norm. So there's all this social pressure that hits up against the person that says, no, this is not what I want. I don't agree with this. This is not what I believe or feel. This is not how I see things. I want to do something different. When you come to that point, that is when the process of individuation begins. That's when you are coming up to your next level of development of consciousness, of soul growth. And so the challenge then becomes, who are you going to listen to? Are you going to follow your inner calling, your inner voice, your inner truth, your spirit, your inner guidance from divine creator? To say, no, this is not my truth. And I'm going to choose to go over here and live this way, to eat this way, to interact with this type of person, to date or marry that type of a person, to have this type of a social structure that's different from how you grew up, from your family of origin. And there's a lot of dynamics, a lot of things that go into play, and that process can stretch out for many years, and it is painful. It's not easy. It's very challenging. It's difficult. Trust me, I've done it. I have done this, so I know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm telling you. The process of individuation, of learning to know who you are as a spiritual being, to know and get in touch with your own truth of what you feel is right for you, and have the courage and dignity and self-respect to live that way anyway, regardless of what your family and your tribe tell you to do. Because they now are uncomfortable. You have rocked their boat because you have chosen to walk away from that family dynamic. You've chosen to individuate. You can see this same thing going on the larger scale of humanity, of how many people blindly follow along the dictates and the orders, so to speak, of what society's institutions tell you to do, of education, of government, of religion, of the political sector, of you have to do things this way, or this thing is mandated. You have to wear a diaper over your face. It's mandated. You can't come into the business. You can't do business with us. We don't like you. We don't want you unless you have a face diaper on your face. You can't interact with us. You can't do business. You can't go to this university unless you have allowed yourself to have poison injected into your arm. All of these things are a very expansive, in-your-face demonstration of the tribal mind, the societal programming. The question becomes, are you going to go along with it blindly, never think about it, never question it? Or are you going to step back and say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. Something feels very fishy and very wrong here. In fact, it smells a lot of like corruption and fraud. What are you going to do? How are you going to live? Are you going to stand up to people despite the social pressure and say, no, I don't believe this. No, I don't agree to have poison injected into my body because I value my body. I value myself. I value my health. I'm going to go over here and live this other way with these other people. That is individuation. It is required for you, for anyone, in order to evolve beyond the third density level of life and to go into the fourth density of life. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So once you've chosen to go into that process of individuation, and as you're developing who you are and getting in touch with your inner truth, your intuitive guidance, the next thing that you're given is, or asked to do, is make a choice. How do you choose to live? How do you choose to manage and express and create with this powerful life force energy that you have at your disposal every day, in your fingertips, at the tip of your tongue? What are you going to do with your life now? Are you going to choose to go into the direction that's more service to self? Or are you going to go into the direction that's more focused on service to others? What do you choose? The service to self path is what we see blatantly demonstrated in front of us by all the narcissistic people, all the crazies, all the psychopaths, all the sociopaths, all the greedy, corrupt people, where all that they do is lie, 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 cheat, manipulate, steal. It's all for them. It's all to gratify themselves. It's all to the worship of their ego. It's all left brain dominant living and thinking and perceiving, glorifying the ego. And then ultimately, when you have gone far enough down that path to where you literally have become a psychopath and a sociopath, you think that you're actually God. However, it's a grossly displaced sense of self because you're coming from a point of ego. You think your ego is that God, as opposed to the actual connection to your spiritual divine source. They have completely cut themselves off from that, so they cannot access divine guidance and intuition anymore in the way that you can. Conversation for another day. But that is the service to self path. Are you going to treat people like dirt, abuse, cheat, lie, steal, take, manipulate, do whatever you can just to fill your own cup? Become an energetic parasite, stealing from everybody, stealing power, taking life force energy, because you don't see, you've disconnected yourself from your own power source. And so now you have to parasite off of others and manipulate and lie and cheat and steal. That's the service to self path. The service to others path is, are you going to live in harmony with natural law? Point blank. Are you willing to understand what that means? Understand how organic life has structured itself, the natural flow of life force energy, the natural flow of life, and move in harmony with it, to uplift yourself, to nurture and honor life, to do no harm, to serve others in that, excuse me, I'm losing my voice here, I've been talking a lot, to serve others in a way that uplifts and helps and benefits them as well as you, in a cooperative, loving, harmonious, win-win-win situation. Are you willing to reconnect with the dialogue of nature and with the environment and earth and the plants and the animals, and recognize that they have consciousness and they have a valid contribution to make in the web of life, and that you too are an integral part, a piece of the web of life. And together as a whole, you're going to evolve in such a way that it benefits everyone. Doesn't diminish from you, doesn't take away from anyone, from the other person, but it uplifts the whole. Honors and nurtures life, or honors and worships death and destruction. Those are the two paths that, as a third dimensional entity or spirit or being, you are asked to make in the overall course of lifetimes within this third density reality system. Now, a lot of people simply can't make that choice. They're not ready. They haven't developed themselves. As I explained before, humanity is a traumatized race. Our development has become hijacked. All of the abuse and the fear-based mind control has kept humanity, by and large, at a child level of consciousness, so they cannot even begin to grasp higher concepts of individuation, higher concepts of what it means to be free and sovereign, what it means to take full responsibility for yourself, to govern yourself in every aspect of your life. Yeah, it's challenging. That's the stretch of what growth is here in a third dimensional reality, of to evolve and to grow in that way, of coming to terms with authority issues, responsibility issues, of the issues of power, of really understanding what it means to be a sovereign being. It's too overwhelming, too intimidating for most people, because they're too attached to the sense of security that they have or feel or perceive within the second density tribal mind, within the family construct, the familial ways of doing things, of wanting to fit in with society and not have the limelight turned on them, or being subject to social pressure to say, you shouldn't have done that. They can't break through that level of fear in order to even begin the process of individuation. And as long as people are there in that place, then they will always be subjected to being controlled, manipulated, abused, and enslaved in the way that humanity is currently being treated, manipulated, abused, and yes, enslaved. Because you're in a point of victimhood, not wanting to take any responsibility for yourself. You've abdicated it, you pushed it away. And so the life and the universe says, okay, fine, this is what you want. Then we're going to present somebody who'll take up the balance and demonstrate to you the outsourcing of your power that you've abdicated, that you've made your shadow. And so now you've got this dynamic of the abused and the abuser. And that dynamic will continue until somebody decides that to step off of that merry-go-round. Hopefully it's you. What do you choose? So with that, I'm going to wind up this video. Been talking for a bit. So my question to you is, what do you want? What do you choose? Do you want to evolve, or are you going to stay stuck in the familiar discomfort of pain and anxiety and fear? It's all your choice. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below your thoughts, your questions for me, your reactions to everything that I've shared here. Share this video around and please subscribe to my channel. In the description of this video, then you're going to find a free download that's available to you, that my gift to you. And it's 7 unconscious beliefs that prevent you from healing, that talk about expressions of all the things I've talked about here today, of what keeps us stuck. Okay, so download that, grab that, and enjoy it. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.